Hello and welcome to another CAMSYS MagicQ tutorial. In this video we're going to cover some of the basics of the effects generator and a brief explanation of how the effects generator interacts with the values currently displayed on your fixture. So to start this example, we're going to grab our 12 fixtures that we have in this show. It's just 12 lights lined up straight across a truss. We're going to put them at 50% intensity. Then we are going to double tap the effects key. And again, just for this example, we're going to put a simple sine wave on the dimmer channel. You'll notice once we do that, our effect starts playing across those fixtures. You'll see it also opens the programmer window with the spreadsheet view of the effects. It'll show any and all effects that are currently in the programmer. Right now we only have our sine wave across our 12 MK spots. And you can see we have a number of fields that we can manipulate. You'll notice right now our effect is barely dipping and intensifying the light. It's not really going 100% to 0%. This has to deal with the size of the effect. The size of the effect dictates the swing of that wave from that baseline value. So in this example, we put our fixtures at 50%. So that's our baseline value. That's where the effect is going to start. At a 50% size, it means that it's going to swing in a normal fashion, so above and below that value, whatever the size is. So at a 50% size with a normal add mode, the effect is going to swing 25% above our baseline value and 25% below our baseline value. So essentially we just created a chase that goes from 25% to 75%. If we were to up this size column to 100%, you'll notice now our fixtures are going from a 0% to 100%. Again, this 100% size is swinging in a normal fashion from our 50% baseline value, meaning it's swinging 50% above and 50% below our 50% value. So it's just touching 0%, it's just touching 100% at the highest and lowest points of the sine wave. Size can be oversized also. You'll notice if we were to change this to 200%, we're now going 100% above and 100% below the 50% baseline value. Meaning we're flatlining or peaking the effect at 100% for a portion of time, and then we're bottoming out or zeroing out, flatlining, at the bottom of the waveform at 0%. This gives us a little bit more contrast and a little bit more of an extreme chase. Let's move forward. We're going to put it back to 100% to get a nice smooth chase. The rest of these fields in this spreadsheet can be manipulated to change the look and the overall ordering of the effect. So moving from left to right, you'll see we have all of these fixtures. We have the dimmer channel, and then we have a speed column. Speed column is represented in number of seconds. It's also on your X encoder where it's represented in number of seconds and BPM. You can manipulate this via the encoder. You could also manipulate it by putting in hard values. So if you were to select the field and set a number of seconds in there, you'll see the effect will now speed up to 1.5 seconds. The third way to set the speed of your effect is by tapping the soft button on the screen or the blue button next to the encoder on your console for your Y encoder, and this will become a tap to time. So for now, we're just going to manually set this back to a 1.5 second chase. The next column is the crossfade column. The crossfade column is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to tell you how much fade between each step or each fixture you're going to have in your effect. Right now we're at 100% crossfade, so you see we have a nice smooth wave rolling through our lights. If we were to turn this down to a 0% crossfade, you'll see now we have no fade. The effect just steps through the fixtures. You can set it to 50%. We'll get something kind of in between. Now it's got a little bit of pop to it, but it's not a totally smooth chase. Set this back to 100% for now. The fourth column is the speed type column. Speed type column has three options. You can either run the effect, you can stop the effect, which will pause the effect right where it is, or you can run the effect back at double speed. Double speed will take into account whatever the speed column currently is and simply double it. Fifth column is the zero size column. Zero size is a way of temporarily shutting off an effect without actually killing the effect. Obviously, a zero size effect on a baseline value of 50% is going to leave the fixtures at 50%. It'll essentially flatline that effect at the baseline value when set to yes. The sixth column is the direction column. The direction column has several different options. You'll see we have a forward, which is going to run the effect across the fixtures based on their selection order. So currently we have 12 fixtures with 1 on the left, 12 on the right. So our effect's just scrolling through our fixtures left to right. We have the option to reverse that effect if we decided we wanted it to go from right to left. And there's several other options such as center in, center out, which will give you a nice symmetrical chase in or out from center. And you have things like even odd, which is going to chase even odd sets of lights. And left and right, which is going to split the effect across the left or the right half of the selection. The next column is going to be the spread column. Spread essentially dictates the offset of this waveform across your selected fixtures. So at 100% spread, the effect is going to scroll seamlessly from the beginning to the end and then loop right back around and seamlessly start back at the beginning. If you change the spread down to 0%, your fixtures are all going to do the same thing. There will essentially be no offset on the waveform. You'll see now all of our fixtures are dimming up and down at the exact same time. You can also set it anywhere in between. So if we set it to 50%, you'll see that it pauses for a second with all the fixtures on. The waveform then sweeps through the fixtures and then pauses again. You can also overspread the effect. So if we were to do 200 spread, you'll see now we essentially have two waveforms or two peaks and valleys to the wave running at the same time. Again, think of this as offset or as the horizontal scaling of that wave. Set it back to 100 for now. And to illustrate these next two options, we're going to turn the crossfade down to 50%. Parts is exactly what it sounds like. It tells the effect how many parts it's splitting up our fixtures into. So, as a two-part effect, you'll essentially get an even odd chase. And as we move this up, we'll get varying steps added in. So if we make it a three-part, you'll see it'll go 1, 2, 3. So basically sets of 3. And 4, so on and so on. The next column is the segments column. The segments column is going to group up numbers of fixtures. So if we were to set segments of 2, you'll notice our even odd chase now becomes an even odd chase of pairs of fixtures. If we were to set it to segments of 3, you'll see now it becomes sets of 3 fixtures on at a time. And so on. So if we were to put it to 6, we'll essentially get a left-right chase. By mixing and matching these parts and segments, you can make one very simple waveform become a multitude of effects without doing a lot of step-by-step chase programming. Set these back to 0 for now. The final column in this effect is going to be the add column. The add column dictates the swing of that waveform over the baseline value. So currently, we have a normal effect, meaning the swing is distributed evenly above and below that baseline value. So as through this entire example, the baseline value has been 50%. This means a normal effect at a 50% value with 100% size is going to swing 50% above and 50% below that baseline value. By changing this add column to one of its other options, it's going to change essentially the vertical position of that waveform. So again, at a 50% value on our intensity, if we were to set the effect to plus, you'll notice you just get a bump up in intensity. That basically means it's only going to add to that baseline value. So in this example, our fixtures will never dip below 50% while the effect is running, because that is our baseline value. So it's essentially just running the effect from 50% to 100% and back down. Alternatively, if we set it to minus, now our fixtures will never go above 50% because our effect waveform is only running the effect from 50% minus down to 0 and then back up to 50. Absolute will always swing the full range of the size, ignoring the baseline value. So if we set it to absolute at 100% size, we get what we would expect to see with a normal effect in this situation. However, if we were to change our baseline values, say put our fixtures to 25% or put them at 5%, you'll notice the effect never changes. Absolute is going to ignore the baseline value and treat the channel or the attribute that the effect is on as though it were starting at 0 and going up whatever the size percentage is. So in this example, if we were to set our size to 50%, now our effect is only going to go to 50% because it is absolute effect to 50%. The last three columns you see in this screen will populate depending on what you're doing. Width will be available occasionally depending on the effect type and the waveform type. The width column is exactly that. It is the width of the effects. If you had a sine wave or you had a simple waveform with a width on it, it would let you choose whether you wanted more light or more dark, basically offsetting the waveform to one side or the other, allowing for a little bit different waveform to be created out of that effect. Group spread will be populated when doing group effects, which will be covered in another video, but here you can choose how that group effect is applied to that group of fixtures. And initial offset. Initial offset is used to set the beginning of the effect to a certain spot. So currently with our fixtures selected from left to right, 1 to 12, when we start this effect, it's going to start at fixture 1 and start scrolling through. If we decided that we didn't want this to start at fixture 1, we wanted it to start in the middle at fixture 6 and 7, we could put a 50% initial offset in. And now when our effect starts on a playback, it's going to start in the middle and go across and then loop around. It's just a way of changing the starting point of the waveform. If for any reason you have an effect in here that you don't want to store, say you made an effect and you decide you didn't like it, with your cursor on the line for that effect, you can always come up to the soft button and hit remove effects, and the effect will go away. As a second example for this video, we're going to show you how the position effects can work. So again, we're going to grab our lights. We're going to put them at full this time. We're going to go down and do the same we did before and double tap the effects button. This time we want a position effect. You'll see there's a handful of different preloaded effects in here, including some user customizable ones. For this example, we're going to pick a simple circle, and you'll see our lights go right into a circle. This will better illustrate the use of the size encoder, which will be encoder D. You'll notice at a 0 size, the effect essentially does nothing. As we turn the size up, the circle is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger across our lights. So we can size it to a very comfortable size. Now we have a nice, clean, smooth circle running across our fixtures. We can then use the same fields that we just talked about with our dimmer chase to manipulate our circle. So we can set our circle to be a center out circle. Now we'll get a nice, even, symmetrical effect. We can change our spread, change how that circle is spread out across our lights. And we can change our speed to, say, 4 seconds, put a nice slow circle on it. Once we have the effect we like, we can store that effect to a playback and clear out, and now we can play back our effect. A cue doesn't have to contain any values. It can contain just the effect. So in this case, we do have some values in here. We have our intensity values, but we have no position values. We just have our effect. This means that we can change that center point of that circle at any time. Again, that circle is based off of the starting value of the fixtures, which was that nice downstage fan. So if we were to come into here and pick our fixtures, we can change the focus of where that circle is pointing by changing the position of our lights, and it will then change the center of that effect. Put them straight down, you can see the effect is now on the floor. As we tilt them out, you'll see the effect comes out. This allows one circle to look as though it's several different effects just by changing the center point of the circle. The last set of effects we're going to use as an example in this video is the color effects. So again, we'll grab our spots, we'll put them at full, we'll double tap the effects button, and we'll look at our color effects. You'll see there's some preset color combinations: green and blue, red and blue, red and green. In this example, I'm going to show you how to make a red, white, and blue effect very, very easily. You can see several different effects with just a series of boxes in them. There's 2 CMY, 2 color, 3 CMY, 3 color, and so on. These are user assignable palette based effects. So if we were to choose a 3 color CMY effect, it's going to pop up a box asking us which palette we would like to use. Well, as mentioned earlier, we're going to do a red, white, and blue chase. So our first one is going to be red. Our second palette is going to be white. And our third palette is going to be blue. You'll see now we have our red, white, and blue chase scrolling across our fixtures. Again, you'll see the columns we've discussed earlier that allow us to manipulate the effect. You'll notice you have a line for cyan, magenta, and yellow individually. If you needed to change the size or speed for some reason on one particular attribute in the effect, we could do that. So we can refine our effect a little more, make it a little more contrasty. Again, we'll make it center out, and we'll make it parts of 3. This is going to give us a nice step chase through red, white, and blue. Again, we can store that effect. Now we bring our fader up, we get our chase, and we can add our circle to it and get a nice red, white, and blue circle. We'll have more videos on specific advanced features in the effects generator out soon. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thanks for watching.